In this week's show, we continue our series on how to full-time RV with a look at towable RVs. Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Tony.
And we are our RV Sunsets. We are a couple that is, well, old enough to have gotten the AARP letter.
Yeah, both of us.
If you know, you know. Welcome to our series on how to RV. This is the third video in the series. Today we are going to be talking about towable RVs. Last week we talked about motorized RVs. We're going to go through some of the different types of towable RVs, talk about the pros and cons of each type. Then we're going to give you some just general pros and cons of a towable RV over a motorized RV. We're going to be speaking in generalities. Of course, there's going to be exceptions to the rules, and I know that those of you that take exception to the rule
will let us know.
You'll let us know in the comments below. Please feel free to do that. If anything, it can get a conversation going around different topics. If you stick around to the end, we are going to give you 3 tips on how to save money when it comes to buying your towable RV.
Don't make the mistake we made.
Yeah, don't make the mistakes we made. And lastly, I want to take a quick moment to give a shout out to Campin' with the Confers. They were nice enough to allow us to use a little bit of their footage in this. I'm going to link them in the show notes below. Once you get done watching this, please head on over and see Mike and Shelly K. If you like the stuff we do, you're going to love the stuff they do. One other thing, I should probably introduce this one down here, who's always in the middle of everything while we're shooting stuff. That's Gracie Girl. She's our third wheel. All right, let's get this thing going. The first type of towable that we are going to discuss is the travel trailer. The travel trailer is a bumper pull type of trailer. They will hook to a ball hitch on the back of your truck. You want to do the pros or you want to do the cons?
I'll do the pros.
All right, give me the pros on the travel trailer.
They are not as tall as a fifth wheel, so although you still should know the height of it, you can get into places a little bit easier. Less problems with clearances of bridges, less problems with trees, that type of thing. You have full access to the back of your truck. There's no hitch back there, so you can use the back of your truck as additional storage. They are generally cheaper than, say, a fifth wheel. Some of them can be really easily attainable. They transfer less weight to the truck than a fifth wheel, so you can sometimes get away with a smaller truck, like a 1500 or a 2500, depending on the weight of the trailer. A
travel trailer is generally going to add about 15% of its weight to the tongue of the truck. And then a fifth wheel type is usually going to add about 20% to the bed of the truck. All right, let's talk about the cons of the travel trailer. For starters, it's going to be a less stable towing experience than a fifth wheel. With a travel trailer, you can get a bit of that tail wagging the dog kind of motion. That can happen when you have large trucks pass you or when you hit rough roads. There are ways to alleviate some of that by using an anti-sway hitch, but you're still going to have a less stable towing experience. You're going to be a longer total length of vehicles with a bumper pull than you would with a same length fifth wheel. This is because with the fifth wheel, part of the trailer is over the truck. Like when we had our Imagine, it was a 30-foot Imagine travel trailer, and we towed that at the same length that we currently tow our 35-foot fifth wheel. In a travel trailer, you're going to have lower ceilings than you would in something like a fifth wheel trailer. This kind of gives it that less residential feel. It can feel a little more cave-like, especially if you're tall like me. I'm 6'4". In our Imagine travel trailer, I only had just a little bit of height above me before the ceiling was there. So it felt a little cave-like. We're doing laundry right now. That was spin cycle. We are on the spin cycle. tall. Also, on a travel trailer, you're going to have less pass-through storage, less storage on the trailer itself. Part of this can be alleviated by the fact that you do have your truck bed, so you can carry more in your truck bed. All right, let's move on to fifth wheels. Fifth wheels are a different type of trailer that hooks in the back of your truck through either a fifth wheel hitch or a gooseneck. Pros.
Taller ceilings can make it feel so much more residential. And if you're a tall person, you're going to love it. There tend to be more separation in the living spaces. And what I mean by that is like a bedroom tends to be a real bedroom. A bathroom tends to be a real bathroom. And the living space feels like a living space.
And if it's a couple of you living in a very small amount of square footage, it's nice to be able to get that separation from time to time.
You can watch TV separately if you don't want to watch the same shows.
Mm-hmm.
You can work separately. As we mentioned earlier, it could potentially tow shorter than a travel trailer. Say you wanted a 35-foot trailer, or you want a 35-foot fifth wheel. You're actually going to tow shorter in the fifth wheel.
Yes.
More pass-through storage. And why is that?
Part of it is because of the way they're built. With the step up into the bedroom on fifth wheels, that naturally just gives you an area below that bedroom where you can have a pass-through storage area. And the other one is out of necessity because, again, with a fifth wheel, you're not going to have the bed of your truck or as much of the bed of your truck to carry other gear with you.
I also like the added benefit of the step up.
Oh, the step up going into the bedroom.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That also makes it feel more residential. You actually have these little stairs in your residence to go up. And oftentimes my view from the bedroom is a little bit nicer than the view from the living room because you're higher up. Generally, in a fifth wheel, you have more storage.
Yeah, so with travel trailers, a lot of them have a north-south bed, meaning the bed is aligned with the front and the back of the trailer as opposed to east-west bed. And with that north-south bed, you're not going to get that big storage area in the front cap like you see in most fifth wheels. And that big storage area becomes a great place for a closet, a washer, dryer, things like that.
So also, generally, the slides are taller in a fifth wheel than they are in a travel trailer, which for people like us that are fairly tall, it's a nice thing because on our travel trailer, you were constantly smacking your head.
I would bend over to get something off of the table and bang my head right into the top of the slide. All right, let's talk about cons of fifth wheels. Height. You're going to be taller in a fifth wheel. We are 13.4. That means it can be difficult, especially going into national and state parks. There was a couple times this year where we had to like push branches out of the way to get the rig in and out. Also, if you're traveling on the East Coast, it seems to be more prevalent there. There's a lot more lower bridges, lower railroad crossing, things like that. So you have to be careful of the height. You're going to have limited truck bed space. This has to do with the fact that you need that large fifth wheel hitch in the back of your truck. Now you can mitigate some of that by going to a gooseneck hitch like we did. That gives us a little more space in the back of the truck. Also with the gooseneck hitch, you can get your truck bed back when you're not hooked up to your rig. Again, these tend to be heavier and they're going to transfer more weight to the truck. So with the fifth wheel in general, you're going to need a bigger truck. Also with the fifth wheels, we talked about this on the pro side, there is multiple levels to a fifth wheel. You're going to have your living area and then steps up to your bathroom and bedroom area. That step up, that could be an issue for people that have mobility issues. All right, now we're going to move on to toy haulers. So toy haulers can be in either configuration. They can be in a bumper pole or they can be in a fifth wheel configuration. The biggest difference with the toy hauler is that it has a garage in the back to haul your toys. All right, let's talk about pros.
One of the biggest pros is that garage. It can be a flex space. It can be used to tow, say like a motorcycle if you need an extra vehicle. It could be used to tow your toys for when like you go out to the desert, you know, razors and side-by-sides and all of that. It can also be used as a flex space. And what I mean by that is it can be turned into an office space. It can be turned into a kid's playroom. It gives you a little bit more freedom with that flex space to set that up how you want to set that up. This can be good for families. It's allowing you to have separation at certain times when you need separation. And trust me, you're going to need separation.
All right, let's talk about the cons. These tend to be heavier, especially when you get to the fifth wheel type. So you're going to need a bigger truck. You're going to need a 1-ton on a lot of them. You're going to need a dually.
Adding that additional garage space does make the general living space, say the living room and the kitchen, smaller.
Yeah, that's probably one of the main reasons why we didn't go with a toy hauler. We looked at toy haulers because of the thought of making that back garage into an office space, but the living space was so much smaller. And I think the only way to gain that back is just to go to a bigger and bigger toy hauler, and we didn't want to go over 35 feet. We didn't want a 45 foot rig. All right, let's move on to some of the general pros and cons between a towable rig and a motorized rig.
Towables generally are less expensive than a motorized RV because you're not paying for that engine.
Even though you have to, in some cases, like in our case, we had to get a truck to pull our rig, we wound up cheaper than a comparable motorized rig. And what I mean by that is we got what I consider, and what I think a lot of people consider, one of the higher end mass manufactured rigs with our Brinkley. We paired that with a diesel Ram truck, a new diesel Ram truck. Something comparable to that in a motorized rig would be a higher end diesel pusher, something like a Tiffin, something like a Newmar. We paid all in for both our trailer and our truck about $180K. You're not going to touch a high-end diesel pusher for $180K. New. I mean, you could find a used one, but not new like we had with the new trailer and new truck.
Yes. If you have an issue with let's say, the engine part of your towable system, you can put the engine in the shop and you don't have to take your home with you.
And this is something even as simple as like an oil change. So when we need an oil change in the truck, Tony can hang out here in the rig at whatever campground we're at, and I can go take the truck in. We don't have to put the whole house in the shop to do a oil change.
You only have one engine that you have to deal with, and that's the truck engine.
If you have a motorhome and a tow car, you're going to have two powertrains to deal with.
You're going to have two powertrains. You're going to have two fuel tanks.
Without a powertrain on these towables, they're generally less expensive to maintain, and they're also going to be easier to fix. Quite honestly, towables, these things are not a space shuttle. Between you and YouTube, you can fix 95% of the issues you're going to have on a towable. If you've owned a house in the past and you've done minor plumbing work, electrical work, things like that on your house, you'll have no problem working on stuff on a travel trailer or a fifth wheel. Okay, let's move on to the cons. So the first is that you're going to need a truck to pull your towable rig. And depending on the size of that rig, it could be a large truck. It could even be a dually, which means, do you like parking in the very back of parking lots? We don't even have a dually. We have a long bed 1-ton, and we wind up in the back a lot.
Yeah, parking can be a little onerous.
It's going to take more time and effort to set up when you get to a campsite. So if you're somebody that has limited mobility, this might not be the right way for you to go. For the most part, you're not going to have onboard generators. You can put them on, and some of the higher end ones come with them on. That means that they can be a little more difficult when it comes to doing things like boondocking.
Not that it can't be done, you're just going to have to spend a little bit more money to get the rig set up for long-term boondocking.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you have to back up a trailer. For some of you, that might be a no-go. You don't want to have to fight with backing up a trailer. I'll tell you, it's not that difficult. You can figure this out. But for some of you, it may be a no-go, and you need to be comfortable with the fact that you're going to have to back up a trailer. For those of you that have stuck around till the end, we promised you 3 tips on how to save you some money when it comes to purchasing your towable. But first, before we do that, I would like to encourage you to give us a like, hit that thumbs up button. Please leave a comment. Those are the things that can help us out because it tells the algorithm that we should be sent to more people. In addition, if you want to subscribe, and if you hit the notification bell, you'll know when all of our videos come out, including all of the ones in this How to RV series. Okay, so tip number 1. If you have to buy a truck to pull your rig, whatever truck you think you need a bigger truck. We know this because we made the mistake. We went from a 1/2 ton to a 3/4 ton to a 1 ton, and that was a very costly mistake. I would say just cover your bases and go get a 1-ton truck. That way you have room for upgradability if you decide to upgrade to a larger rig. The only thing I might debate is whether you want a single rear wheel or a dually, unless you're going with a great big toy hauler. Then get a dually.
Tip number 2. We didn't do this and I wish we had.
There's a lot of things we didn't do that we wish we had.
If you're thinking about going full-time, buy your first rig used, because it's a trial rig. You're going to get into it and you're going to live in it for like 6 months and you're going to realize that you want some different things. Buy the first one used. That way you don't lose out so much money when you actually do go to upgrade.
The biggest depreciation on a rig is going to be going from new to used. As soon as you drive it off the lot, you're going to dump 20 to 30% in depreciation. So if you buy a used rig, that big chunk of depreciation has already been hit, so you won't lose as much when you decide to trade it in or sell it so that you can upgrade rigs. Tip number 3, if you do decide to buy something new, just know that the MSRP that's listed on the trailer's website, that is an imaginary number made up by little elves that you only see during the nighttime in bars and taverns around Elkhart, Indiana. Those aren't real numbers. It's generally accepted practice is that a dealer is going to discount a rig about 30%.
Actually, start your negotiations, have that number in your head and stick to it. If one dealer won't give it to you, go find another one. You're buying a rig from them. They're not doing you a favor. Pick that number, stick to it. I guarantee you'll probably get the rig for what you want to pay for it.
Yeah, make them earn your money. All right, that's it for this week. Please swing on by next week. We are going to be discussing the challenges of saying goodbye to the life you know. Things like, what do you do with your property? Do you need to buy storage space? And even tips on dealing with leaving your friends and family in that rearview mirror. All right, we'll see you next week. Say goodbye.
Bye.